This is exactly what you want if you're Iowa. I've been saying it all week. Everybody's still talking about this Ohio State game. Like, I'm fine. I'm sitting back here enjoying myself. Now, you guys, I understand you're not going out and playing the game on Saturday, and I have full confidence that Jim Harbaugh is going to have those kids ready. But that's a huge factor. You brought it up, just the hangover effect. Will that actually be a factor in this game? I know I ticked off some Michigan fans yesterday by predicting that Iowa was going to win this game. I didn't guarantee it. Somebody accused me of, you guaranteed that.
I saw that too.
And I actually said I do not guarantee it, but whatever. So I do think Iowa's going to win the game. You can call me crazy. I'm worn out just already. We're midway through the week. I'm already worn out by everybody, not only in the national media, but like even fans, just some Iowa fans. I mean, there have been a few, optimistic Iowa fans, but for the most part, nobody's giving Iowa a shot in this game. And again, I have no problem with that. Like, that's, who cares? I don't think it matters. It's exactly probably what we want. Mark, you have something to say?
Corey, I'm going to represent arrogant Ohio State fans, if there is such a thing out there. But I think there might be a few out there.
There are. Don't worry about
there
it.
might be. It's known as an arrogant fan base, not myself included, but I'm going to represent them right now. When you started on that spiel, it would have fit a little bit better about 2 sentences in. I was about to say, but Corey, you have to realize it's Ohio State. They beat Ohio State.
I understand, and but isn't that the fear if you're a Michigan fan?
No.
Isn't that the fear? Because we keep talking about how big it is. Like, what we're still talking about it. I understand there's no rivalry in college sports bigger than that. Although you could argue Duke, North Carolina basketball, but I mean, there really isn't a rivalry any bigger than that. So, isn't that a legit concern if it's that freaking big?
I would say no, because I look at, and I like the example that Mark used about the Boston Red Sox. I'm also big into baseball too, and what made that so impactful in the moment, as well as what happened afterwards, years going forward, was that it was the curse of the Bambino for the Boston Red Sox. They just couldn't get past the Yankees, and they finally did in incredible fashion, being down 3-0, came back and won the series. And in a way, the dramatic turn that series had was kind of the dramatic, you can equate that to the dramatic play out of the Michigan versus Ohio State game. That Michigan dominated that game. They just didn't win. They dominated in a way that they haven't done in decades. And it was like conquering. It was almost, we were losing so bad to Ohio State that a lot of Michigan fans felt like we were almost cursed. Like, you just felt like it didn't matter how the season was going, good or bad, we'll never break through that wall. And the way that I see last Saturday was a team breaking through a wall. And if you go back to the Boston Red Sox reference, once the Red Sox beat the Yankees, they won the World Series that year, and then they won again in 2007. They've been winning, been one of the most successful baseball teams over the last decade ever since then. So I kind of look at that same type of feeling from Michigan. And I'm not saying Michigan's going to go on a run of winning national titles, the Big Ten titles every year, but I thought it was like a breaking through period. And so, no, I don't think that would have too much of a hangover effect on Saturday night. I actually think it could, but also if it could have like one of those exhale moments where maybe Michigan gets even better. Maybe this is when they finally can breathe again and they can have that supreme confidence, not cockiness, but confidence that they can do this. And so I think that's a flip side. I can definitely see your point of view playing out, but definitely the latter as well.
I was just going to mention real quick, I turned the chat off on the side of my my screen here, Mark. So Mark, why did you put that comment up there? First of all, the guy spelled my name is spelled Cory. There's no E in my name. So attention to detail is very important. And I may be out of my mind. I've been called delusional, out of my mind, crazy, a homer the last 24 hours. So that's okay. I will say this, as far as the X's and O's, I agree with everybody who, if you want to break this game down based on position, I mean, Michigan's got the horses to beat, I think, anybody. I think they got the horses to beat Georgia. I'm totally on board with that. And for the record, I said this yesterday too, but if Michigan beats Iowa on Saturday, there's no reason on earth for Iowa fans not to be rooting for Michigan, not only to get in the playoff, but to win. Some fans don't understand. I mean, you can root for whoever you want to, I guess, but some Iowa fans and some Big Ten fans don't realize that you should be rooting against your rivals once we get into postseason play. So I'm all on board for Michigan past this game. I just think, and by the way, I do want to bring this up. I didn't get to talk about this during our podcast with Don Patterson this week, but does anybody know the connections here? And I'll ask you, Michigan guys, and Mark, you may know since you are a Big Ten guy, the connections that Jim Harbaugh has to Iowa. I know he played in that 85 game, which of course was an infamous game, but anybody know the connections, family connections direct family connections to the University of Iowa between Jim and Iowa?
I don't know, but I'm going to go on a limb and say it has something to do with his father being assistant coach or something like that.
Mark, do you know?
Maybe I'm mixing this up with another situation. I thought it had something to do with a wife and brother-in-law.
I think you're mixing it up.
I must be. Okay.
So,
I don't know.
Yeah. So his dad, Jack Harbaugh, was an assistant coach at Iowa for 3 years from 71 to 73. I believe that was it Jim Lauderber was the head coach at Iowa during that time period. He was only here for 3 years. Jack was on his staff the entire time. Jim was a little kid at that time and ran out into the street, got hit by a mail truck in Iowa City. So there are some cool storylines. I mean, obviously he survived, so we can kind of giggle about it now, but I just found that out this week, so I just wasn't aware of that. So there's some strong connections there. I think there's respect between Kirk and Jim. I know there's respect between Jim and Kirk. I don't know if I'm not saying Kirk doesn't respect Jim, but Jim he's just a different type of kid. I mean, you just know that he's not a Kirk or a Pat Fitzgerald. He's just a different type of guy.